Hey, you are off the clock with Trish and Steve. Hey, Steve Bose, how are you?
I'm well. Trish, how are you?
I'm good. As you can see, I am in a different location. I am on my couch. I have been sitting here all morning writing away. So,
Hmm.
what you see is what you get.
Well, I guess we'll have to be satisfied with that.
Do you ever do that? I mean, every time we see you, you're at your desk.
I
So, are
do.
you
I don't. I'm not one to go sit on the couch and work or
really? Okay.
yeah, sit outside. Although I'd like to. It's always too bright out there. Like the times where I want to be outside, it's just too bright and sunny, and that's not really conducive. So, yeah, I
Right.
typically just kind of hang out in the office for the most part.
Okay.
Boring.
I like to move around if I'm writing. Obviously, if it's
Mhm.
a day where we've got a lot of calls or client meetings, things like that. But if I'm just like sort of writing and needing to be inspired, I'm much more of a couch person or outside. So anyway, good to know. Hey, one thing I sent you a link in advance just because
I
normally
did.
we
I did.
don't
Yes.
talk
Why
about
don't you
things.
tell us about that? Yeah.
So, for anyone who hasn't seen, maybe you remember back in December, Better.com CEO Vishal Garg, Garg, fired 900 employees on like a mass call, right? They didn't
Yeah.
expect it. It was out of the blue. Everyone was shocked that they did it all at once
Very
together.
impersonal, out of nowhere, yeah, and he kinda
Yeah, just
kinda kicked him a little bit on the way out, a little bit too, right, from reports that I'd read.
yeah, just in very poor taste, right? And I've actually tried to dig around and find who their HR, leader is. I've not been able to figure that out, and maybe that's
Hmm,
that's intentional.
yeah,
But the big news yesterday that came out was they fired 4,000 employees, didn't bother to tell them. The only way that the employees started figuring it out was on their payroll app
right,
because they had a severance payment.
right, they were checking their pay stub for Friday or Thursday, whenever they would normally get paid kinda thing, and all of a
Right.
sudden there's an extra check marked severance in there, or an extra payment marked severance. That's tough, yeah,
I
that's rough.
I guess I have so many questions, Steve, and I don't know, maybe you do too, but I feel like, it's not the pay app's job to make sure that someone has been terminated before they start putting severance on there, right? But it just feels like if that's how companies are going to operate, like I just don't even
You're
understand.
testing my knowledge of payroll system setup, but I feel like in some of the systems I was around, you could configure certain pay types would only work, or an employee would only be eligible for certain pay types if their status was X, Y, or Z. So I think you could do that. I think I don't know their specifics of their specific payroll solution and if that one
Right.
can do it, but I believe that is a thing that could be done. I'll say that generally speaking in payroll software.
I would agree with you. Again, I think it depends on what payroll provider you're using. So that's probably a conversation for a whole nother show. But I don't know. How are we still having companies do this in this day and age where they
I think yeah, I think certainly this company had also right, a track record of not handling a layoff appropriately. But now they've got a second mass layoff in short mere period of time, but also it's much larger. So you're talking
have
about laying off 4,000 people. That is a lot of people, and at a company that was maybe going to cut themselves in half, is I think
mhm.
what it said in the story. So
Yeah, they have about 8,000 employees.
probably gonna be a challenge to I mean, can you call everybody up one at a time? 4,000 people? How long would that take? How many,
You
like,
can, but
I
I
don't know how you
feel
handle
like
that.
you can't, but you would have to have some sort of, at that point, if it's going to happen on one day, you would have to have some sort of strategic plan, right, to divide and conquer that group. And that might go back to when he had the conversation. 900 is, for me as a former HR person, that's too large of a number.
Yeah.
Maybe you do it in groups of 50. He still has another 4,000 employees. You would imagine he has to have several hundred, if not thousand leaders left, right? So you employ those people to sort of help with the discussions. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a better way
Well,
that it
yeah,
just
I
feels.
know I know business conditions change, and
Mhm.
probably in today's market, they change much more rapidly than they used to, but I'll say this, for a company to have to lay off that many people, thousands and thousands of people in this short a period of time, that points to some colossal mistakes made by upper management and the CEO on
Right.
down, right? Just some terrible strategic blunders. And you could also say, well, Cal, no one could predict X, no one could predict Y. You couldn't predict the pandemic, you couldn't predict the war in
True.
Ukraine, you can't predict whatever. You can't, but still, even though maybe it wasn't completely their fault, they were in charge, they screwed up. 5,000 people now have had to be fired. Those people need to go too, probably almost all of them who were
Thank you.
involved in setting that company's strategic direction, right? So,
Right? I
but
don't know,
anyway,
but you know what?
uh,
Their revenue is up, and I would say too, my last little comment on this, I looked on their website before we went live. They actually
they're
have
still hiring.
they're still hiring a whole careers page with, I
Yeah.
didn't count them, but, maybe 70 positions at least, something like that. So, I guess my word of caution is if you're out there looking for a job, better.com is probably not where
Don't
you
don't
wanna go.
go there. That's your yeah. And here's the good news, Trish. I'm glad you brought that story up because those folks hopefully will land on their feet fairly swiftly. And the data shows that they'll have good
Mhm.
opportunities because Trish, today the job openings and labor turnover survey, the JOLTS report came out for January, Trish.
Oh,
We are just shy of all-time record job openings in the US, 11.3 million job openings. That's about 100,000 less than the all-time record. And quits, that's what the other number that we always talk about with this report, 4.25 million people quit their job in January. That's trending down a little bit. The high mark on that was 4.5 million
wow.
in November, December of last year, but still really, really high. And there's about 2 open jobs for every 1 unemployed person now in the US, almost a zero point 0.5 ratio of people
Wow.
to jobs. It's crazy. So lots of opportunity out there, hopefully, for folks who had to endure the idiocy of better.com leadership over the last 4 or 5 months.
Right? Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm a recruiter, I'm going out on, LinkedIn in the next week or so and searching for people who have that particular, employer in their profile, and I would feel like that's the exact place I'd wanna recruit from, so
And it's a great point. Large, writ large, like a lot of times people are on the market are actively looking for jobs and they're great
for
people.
sure.
And the reason that they're, looking for a job and they're unemployed is no fault of their own. It's some terrible management or some bad
Oh,
luck
yeah,
or, there's so
100%.
many reasons why. And so like, hopefully folks are going to give those folks a chance.
Oh, wait, we've got a
Trisha?
comment here from, LinkedIn. Chris Hadley, "There has to be some serious silos and separation between leadership and departments there." You're exactly right, Chris. There have to be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all pretty suspect to me, and I think that the, remaining 4,000 employees, if I were them, I would start looking right now, right?
Yeah, Trish, I've got
What
some
else?
sadder news, but I
Oh,
do feel like
no.
it needs to be reported, Trish. Today I saw, or maybe yesterday, I can't remember when. Trish, I'm a fan of baked goods, the kind of baked goods you get in the grocery store at the end of the
Right.
aisle, specifically. I grew up in the Northeast in the New Jersey, New York area, where
Okay.
Entenmann's, Trish, was like a staple of my
Oh,
my life, right?
sure.
Entenmann's. So here's the sad news. Charles Entenmann, Trish, Charles Entenmann, who grew his family's small bakery into grocery stores nationwide with their signature white boxes and chocolatey donuts and the other treats. He passed away recently at 92. And I didn't know this. I from reading the story, I dug into this just slightly. I read one Wikipedia page. The Entenmann's company, the original Entenmann's, was sold back in 1978 for
Really?
$233 million. It was sold to a larger baking group, and the brand has since like bounced around from owner to owner to owner. It's been sold multiple times over the years. It's now owned by a Mexican conglomerate called Grupo Bimbo. I don't know if you were
Really?
familiar with that, but it still exists as Entenmann's, and I can get it in my grocery store in
I can't.
Concord, North Carolina. I can buy Entenmann's donuts if I am so inclined, which I often am still.
That's
So,
interesting.
R.I.P. Charles.
Yeah, RIP for sure. I think it's funny when I think back to being a kid, the Entenmann's donuts were too expensive for us,
Ooh.
and so if we ever got them or if I was at a friend's house or something and had them, it was a treat, and I don't know why, but, like, that seems to carry like, obviously, I can go to the store and buy Entenmann's donuts, but I don't, 'cause I still feel like, "Wow, That's a treat. That's an expensive thing. So
Yeah, yeah, I don't recall any of that, but I do remember having a lot of them, but and I certainly didn't grow up,
you
in a
were well
fancy,
off.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say that, but, I do like the donuts, and next time I get out to the store, I will try to get some. I will get some
Very good. Very
in
good.
Toast Charles over coffee
Yeah.
and donuts.
It's interesting. You're talking about donuts. I mean, we don't have it launched yet, but we actually did a really interesting podcast recording yesterday with the CPO from Dawn Foods, which they
Mhm.
make many of the base mixes for donuts that you would find. I don't know that they do the Entenmann's base
I
mix.
I I don't think so based on how he described the way that business works, but yeah, they're in that same general business, yeah. And speaking of podcasts, just last thing I wanted to mention is our podcast that we recorded, posted yesterday with Jeffrey. Make sure I get his name right. Jeffrey Korzenik. He's
Mhm,
author of the book Untapped Talent. Hopefully, you can see that here. And it's all about trying to give basically second chance hiring to give folks who have been previously incarcerated and now are back, done their time, paid their dues, et cetera, really need a break to get back into the workplace. It's all about giving those folks a chance, and not just giving them a chance, but the processes, the structures, the programs, the approaches, et cetera, the resources that you need in organizations to give those folks a chance. And we talk about talent all the time.
mhm.
Millions of people quitting, 11 million open jobs. It's an untapped talent pool, which is what this book is called. And I recommend the book as well. And please check out the podcast that we just posted yesterday.
Yeah, it's funny. I knew it posted because I already had someone approach me and say, "Hey, I just listened to it and
Nice.
loved it because, um, it was something they hadn't really considered before." So again, I think that, if you need some actual strategic steps to take, it was really good for kind of not just talking high level about thinking about these workers and potential workers, but actually how to do it. So yeah, it
It's a
was
really
fun.
in-depth case study from a manufacturing company that
Mhm.
he's worked with in there. So yeah, highly recommend it.
You know what,
And,
Steve?
and Jeff was a really good guy too.
I feel like every time we record a podcast lately, even if it's on a different topic completely, it all comes back to really tapping into those untapped talent pools. And again, whether that be second chance sort of employees, whether it be we've done a lot on neurodiversity, we've got another one coming up on autism specifically. There's just a lot out there. So again, I think that organizations are really starting to embrace trying to find people in different places. I'm going to have a whole talent community, I think, from the better.com workers I'm going to set up to help them. Maybe that should be my new job. I'm going to help source them. Maybe not.
A lot of them,
Anyway,
but good.
but it's just interesting that right now it seems like all the news stories are coming back to jobs and things like that. Hey, before we go, I know we're getting close to time to say goodbye. I want to at least give a shout out. I gave a shout out to my daughter the other day. I want to give a shout out to Jack, who you know. Jack had already accepted at the University of Nebraska, but yesterday he is officially committed to the PGA Golf Management Program, one of 17 in the country, and the university was posting all about that. So again, I was thinking, like, how cool is that you go out and recruit students, to a certain program, much like an employer would, and then the first thing they do is ask the student, hey, can we promote this and share with the world that you're going to be a
Cool.
part of our family? And that's the way they worded it. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if organizations really did a better job at that too?
Yeah, you see it a little bit, but you tend to
Little
only
bit.
see it at like kind of C-suite level hires, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, why not? Why not say, "Hey, welcome. I'm so glad we've got this person coming on board, joining our team." Again, maybe it's not even at the organizational level if the organization's too big, but, maybe your department sends out sort of a tweet or something on LinkedIn like a welcome to the family, right? Welcome to the organization. So, anyway, shout out to the University of Nebraska PGA Golf Management Program and to Jack, who's gonna be joining them. So
Top 17 programs of its kind in the land, I've heard.
yeah, and actually it's right at the top, I think. So anyway, they're a great school already, and everyone at that program I know has been really exceptional to work with Jack. So we're excited, see what happens. Anyway, I think that's all for today. So over and out. And Steve, you will be gone on Friday, so everyone will get me and a
In
special
charge.
guest host. All right. Bye for now, everyone. We'll see you back here on Friday.